Mike Johnson says men need to stop playing video games all day and get to work. They're draining resources. Never mind all the women that have been a drain on resources for decades, but men? And look, I actually understand. I've always been pretty open that if every single man went MGTOW, society would literally collapse. It would. But thankfully, there's so many trad cucks out there who are willing to destroy themselves for Milady. They could carry us too. Yeah, go ahead, show Milady what a real man you are, carrying society on your back. Hey, return the dignity of work to young men who need to be at work instead of playing video games all day. That's right, young men. Your only use to society is as an expendable worker drone. You are to be worked to death and then discarded. You're not allowed to do anything but that. House Speaker Mike Johnson defended trad cuck efforts to attach work requirements to Medicaid, suggesting young American men are wasting their lives playing video games all day instead of working. Now, I don't necessarily disagree with this. At the very least, you need to show that you're honestly looking for work. Look, we had to do that like the one time I was on unemployment between jobs. Like every week, I had to submit a report that I was looking for work with proof. I think this is perfectly fair. It's all the other shit that like it's the going too far where you lose everyone. And Johnson's remarks came as House Republicans pushed forward a budget framework that would help finance Orange Man's tax cuts, with plans to slash federal spending by trillions. GOP leaders are eyeing $880 billion reductions to Medicaid, a move critics warned would gut health coverage for millions of low-income Americans. How about you just stop making insurance mandatory, and then maybe less people would have it, and the doctors would have to adjust what they charge? And also, you have to do something about malpractice as well, because the doctors have to pay a fortune for malpractice insurance. So you're going to have to do something about that, too. Johnson attempted to sidestep the claims of direct benefit cuts, instead blaming able-bodied young men for taking advantage of a program he said was meant for single mothers, the elderly, and people with disabilities. Yeah, this was meant for the leisure class, not you. You're supposed to be the slave class. They're draining resources from people who actually do need it, Johnson said. Look, that's how communism and socialism works. These social safety nets are basically socialism light. Are you surprised by this? So if you clean that up, you save a lot of money. You return the dignity of work to young men who need to be at work instead of playing video games all day. Yeah, you're not a real man unless you're out there benefiting me. So you, as a man, need to work yourself to death so I can benefit. How dare you try to benefit yourself? Despite Johnson's insistence that no one has talked about cutting one benefit in Medicaid, the work requirement would threaten healthcare access for millions, including Americans that are temporarily unemployed after being laid off. Yeah, so that's why it's an easy solution. Instead of having it be a work requirement, make it be a requirement that if you're not working, you're at least looking for work. And then think of all the jobs you could create, because you're going to need people to verify, right? So a report from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities found that as many as 36 million of the 72 million enrolled in Medicaid could be stripped of coverage under work requirements. Orange Man has been promised a quick turnaround on the bill, putting pressure on Johnson and House Republicans to make significant cuts that can be rationalized to voters who stand to lose access to services on Johnson's view, video game time. Nah, I put video games ahead of everything else, man. Dude, I wish I could say that, honestly. If I put video games ahead of everything else, I would have quit my job years ago. I would not be putting up with that shit. I'd be messaging my boss, hey, you're cutting into my 17th Skyrim run, so could you kindly fuck off, please? I got important shit to do. Yeah, I thought consoles are going video games might be a dying medium. No, video games are not a dying medium. But video games are no longer going to be the popular hot shit. I think that's a good thing. I want gaming to become niche again, because nothing good has come of gaming going mainstream. Dude, Oblivion Remaster, a fucking almost 20-year-old game, is more hype than any of the new shit that's releasing. People would rather play a touched up 20-year-old game than the new shit that's coming out. Obviously, we don't need the new shit. And I'm not saying like that there's no good new shit out there. I mean, on occasion there is. But in general, like this, given how tiny of a percentage of the game industry the good stuff is, we could afford to lose 99% of it. Like they were, you guys remember that article where it showed a bunch of whammons in a transformer, and it said like, oh, 11% of all game devs were laid off in 2024. Whammons most affected. We're not at 99% yet. We can afford to lose another 88% before it becomes a problem, because the vast majority of the industry is bloat, and the vast majority of games they're shitting out are slop. We could afford to lose the vast majority of them, and nothing of value will be lost.